Okay, I'm back again. Apparently, there's some glitches in my video yesterday. I actually watched it after I received a few text messages about some of the things that didn't show up. And rather than just redo that all over again, it's winter here. Wait a minute. I'm sorry, cold. We don't have winter like you think of winter. We have rainy cold and we have hot dry. Uh, but the point is it's colder up south than it is down up north than it is down south. And I've got my warm clothes back on. Where when I was down there, I was taking them off down to my t-shirt and running around with my heavy jacket tied around my waist. But that first video was there were some difficulties with it. I'll just tell you that in my a desire to get the information out fast, I was really tired yesterday. Um, I'll just start by talking to you from my heart. Um, when I'm in the field, it's a very on the land, really all year long. When I go to the land, it's a very emotional experience for me. Um, a lot of the time in this green time of year, because I feel like I have a significant understanding of what the creator's trying to tell us from this piece of earth about how many months that everything's dead and dry and how many months that everything is green and supple, and what that means in light of eternity, and what that means when we are no longer breathing and walking on this earth. So when I go to the land, it's a very emotional, personal time for me. I'll give you an example. When I was in the area of Habasur, there's a reserve down there. There was a river that runs through that, and they've made like a little national park down in there. And there's areas where the river pulls. And you have to know about Israel that it's not like the United States or some of these countries where there's lots of rivers and creeks and underground springs and lakes and all of these sources of water. We have few sources of water. And in fact, most of our civilization sprung up around Eins, which means ein, Maim ein, which means an eye of water, like a spring that comes up out of the earth. So it can be few and far between our sources of water. And in the wet season, we have lots of fair water creeks. In fact, in the Negev down around the Dead Sea, if you get up in those dry wadis, which that's what Fairweather Creek is, in the rainy season, and a big rain comes and you're not aware that water is accumulated up above and is headed your way. I haven't heard it this year, but last year, even there were people who drowned. A whole group of kids drowned in one of those wadis because it had started raining and they didn't know. And the water came down on top of them as they were hiking that wadi and they got swept away. So back to being on the land. When I was in that Basor region, Habasor, the little pool of water I had seen there, I saw all these deer tracks around the water. They would probably come at sunrise to drink water, and it was safe. And in considering how far they had come to drink and probably how thirsty they were, and seeing those footprints in the mud, I began to sing, "As a deer panteth for the water, so my soul longeth after thee." And I'll stand and cry in the field as the words live before my eyes. So for me, being on the land and even being in the barley inspections, is a very emotional, personal time that I'm with a father. Sorry, gosh, I didn't plan on doing that. Um, so I never take it for granted. I'm not just out there systematically tearing through the land. I've prayed the morning before I've gone out, and I've prayed the night before. Father, show me everything you want me to see. Take me to the places I need to go. And I had really prayed and thought, well, maybe this year he'll take me to unknown areas that he's reserved and laid up that maybe have not been located. Well, that didn't happen, and that's okay. That wasn't his will. That was my idea. So that's the first thing I want to say. You need to know that when I do this, this is not just something that I do. It's a precious time to me when I literally feel the presence of the God I serve walking beside me, keeping me safe. Uh, don't have music playing. I'm trying to listen to his words. I'm trying to look at his land and see what he's saying by it. I know that it is his glory, his might, his force that brings forth everything on this earth every year in its season. And I'm looking at that, at the earth responding to what it's commanded to do. And, here's another example. I was standing up on a hill over that area of Habasur. It's a very hilly region. And I was looking out at all that vegetation that's not going to be there very, very long at all. And the beautiful green splendor of it, and all the flowers and all the herbs that were seeding. And I began singing another song out there on top of the hill with my eyes shut and crying like a baby. There's none like you. No one else can touch my heart like you do. Sorry. So obviously it's a very emotional time for me. And I was so tired yesterday, and the video was so bad. I had come finally back in from the new moon, and when I had gone out to see it, I couldn't find my keys. Had no idea what had happened to him. I was frustrated. Come home. I took the spare key. Come home, and my husband said, I found the keys. They're hanging up. I said, you're hanging up? He says, yeah, they're right here. And I began really sobbing. Just the accumulation of working so hard and trying so hard to hear what he was saying to me. The provision of exactly what I asked him for and more in that section of the field. That tension in me of not wanting to dishonor his name, the one I'm trying so hard to represent in any way, shape, or form. All of that just come tumbling out, and I boo-hooed. My husband put his arms around me. He says, it's okay, you did it. You can let go now. So he said, you can let go now. And I went to bed early. I was really tired. And I went to bed about 9:30 and slept about 6. So I wasn't tired physically. I was tired emotionally. So anyway, that is my heart. And when he touches me, I can't cry pretty. I cry ugly. You've heard that. I'm going to ugly cry now. Well, I ugly cry a lot when I'm with him. So that's why the video was so messed up, is because I was on the verge of that, letting go of that tension, and I was just trying to drive straight through to get the information out so that I could get it to you. But in doing so, I understand that that there are some holes that I need to go back and fill in. I did not know that in that first share where I'm trying to show the field I went to 3 weeks ago, that I can't share 2 images from my same screen, that it only picks up 1 image. So I do want to go back to that and do a better job of showing you how the yellow in the sways or in the dips in the field or in the level fields, how the yellow is different from any elevation. So I'm going to just take my time and do the shares one at a time and make sure they come up on the screen. And I'm going to post this up in addition to that first video. Let's get started. Okay, so this is going to be a look at the damage that the fields have suffered. And this is a wild barley area here. It's traditionally, it's a good area that has healthy barley. Let's share screen share. Screen share here. Okay, so we did talk about this. You will see that this is a hill, but here to the road, it's a pretty wide area, very long area. It goes way back on behind. And you'll see that this is the low-lying area and how damaged the barley is. You see how yellow this is and how short. And this is even last year's barley grass. It just has not got the oxygen the root needs. Over here, it's a little bit higher. And the barley is much healthier, and though it's still grass, this is in the north, okay? So this is the condition of the south when I was down there 3 weeks ago. I'm gonna stop sharing, pause, and bring you in on another photo. Okay, gonna do a screen share on a video here. This is the area of Ryan Park, what it looked like 3 weeks ago. See that yellow? That's yellow. That barley had made it, but it had almost drowned. And this is a screen share from that first area again. What we're looking at is how yellow and sick this was. And this is all oats in this yellow lower area. This is what is surviving, is the oats. This is clusters of barley in little rises on the earth. Show you another one of the same thing. I want you to notice how wavy this earth is. All of those high places are going to ripen first. And hang on. You can see that the stalks of oats at this point are sickly. And I do believe that the oats, like the wild barley, have a genetic construction in them from their creator, that they're going to make a seed, whether it's because it's so dry that it won't have a long life, or it's so wet that it may not have a life at all. And this is a shot picture down into the earth in one of those clusters to show, even though for me it's not an issue, to show that there is no stones down in there causing a hothouse effect or a greenhouse effect. It's just dirt down there. Okay, all of this right here, there's no stones. This is one of those tufts that has a lot of tall barley and the rest around it. But still, even this, you can see that the barley is sickly looking in this area, but it has greened up from this time. Okay, now we're going to look at some photos of that field from this trip. And you'll see that a lot more barley has been able to come up. So the question you're going to have to wrestle with, that I have already wrestled with, and I've determined for myself, is if you want to wait for this other barley in these photos to get ripe, or if you want to offer the first ripe fruits that have happened there on the land. And even though they're in a dough stage, and I took them the last day of the 12th month for me, even though they're in a dough stage, what will it be in 2 weeks if it's a medium dough now? And we'll check it in 3 days to see where it's at. But you've got to wrestle with this. Do you want to wait for the rest of that? Or are you content to offer a first fruits from this general area? And now I'm generalizing the area. This area is on one side of the Ra'im kibbutz, and the Ra'im Park is in that general area. So this represents a general area now. And you're going to see that there's more barley up. And so, yes, the one that wrote the report, and this is not a tear down of that person. This is me telling you why I'm doing it differently. The one that wrote the report and said that the majority of the barley has been reserved for their additional month, they're right. They're right. But the barley I'm telling you about, which is 3 armfuls for what I need, is going to be in a month on the ground, and it's going to be passed. So let's look at these pictures. Let's see, I gotta share this, don't I? Share screen. Okay, this is that exact same area. And so all this has been able to recover. The barley is looking much healthier, but look past this little barley rise right here at how anemic that is. Let me get you another picture. Here's another picture of some of the newer barley in bloom. This is lamb's quarter behind it, and look, it's already going to seed. This is a very good, very, very good, very mild spinach-like herb that comes early on the earth, and you can see it's already going into the seed head. Another picture of that same general area. Do you see how far out those oats are? And if you look, the stalks have pretty much recovered, and yet the barley is showing signs of dropping. I mean, the wheat is showing signs of dropping. Well, it's had a stressful year. I'm not surprised. But does that mean we need that? That doesn't mean that I am going to negate the first fruits that have already been determined in this area. This next photo is going to have some of that beautiful Carmel barley, the red barley, crimson barley. Let's see if I can pull that up a little closer. See how crimson that really is. Okay, that's a beautiful picture of one that's heavily striped. That's a really, really, really dark one there. This is not ready. This batch here is not ready. Okay. I'm going to show you one more. Hang on. Okay, this is from that area from the tufts that I knew were ready to go. Okay, and this is again when I prayed and I said I would like to have one patch that's large enough. So that is a soft dough. And again, there's some more barley here that's been born, some of that beautiful red barley. And you'll notice it's on the incline and how healthy this is, and that the water's been able to drain away. And these are healthy. Oops, hang on. Gotta make sure I'm sharing this, don't I? I'm sorry, I'll back up. Go here. Share again. I've got to remember that I'm sharing. I'll go here. Go back. Hang on. Stop sharing because I'm not sure if I've done this right. So now we're going to share right here. Okay, there. We talk about this again in case I didn't cover it. Technically challenged, don't get old. So this is, again, like I said, that beautiful Carmel barley, which I believe represents the color Carmiel, which is crimson. And you'll see just how beautiful it is. Look at this. Very, very variegated. This one is almost completely Carmel or crimson. And there are various, you see how nicely it's recovered because we had not the heavy rain that we had previously. This has actually been able to recover. So I'm going to stop sharing, pull the next photo up, and go over that one again. And go here. All right. Screen share. Again, this is that field that I already said this, where I prayed about having to harvest those tufts, but you can see that it's in the dough stage. And this was a very soft dough, by the way. Quit sharing and get another picture. Oh, there's a better one. Share that one. That's a better one. You can see I squished it out. It's medium dough, medium to soft dough. Stop sharing. Okay, here's one. Share the screen. Look at the health of this barley. It's on a slope and the water has been able to drain away. There is some more beautiful Carmel barley, crimson barley. Okay, stop sharing. Okay, I'm going to share this screen. There you go. And this is concerning the recovery of the oats. These are no longer yellow stalks, but let me see if I can. Do you see how the grains are turning? Okay. Let me see if I can look at some more. You see how they're black and they're opening up like that alligator mouth? These are close to dropping. So I believe that I have learned that anytime they're stressed at all, whether it's too ripe, too dry, or too wet, that their creator and our creator has created it to make a seed, if it can at all. Now, the next thing I will show you is some of the condition of the herbs. This is arugula. It is already quite large. And this is what was in my breakfast plate the day that I had eggs. I basically threw everything down to here away because it was already tough. I pulled from the bottom up, I pulled these leaves off of both sides, and all of these gave away from this tough stem, and I kept it from about here forward. I could keep it and chop it and add it to my plate. And give you another photo. This is sorrel, the one I put in my lettuce. It's very sour, very bitter, makes your jaws pucker. And you can see right here, it's starting to bloom, okay? Wild sorrel. Okay, well, let me see what the next subject was I wanted to speak about. Okay, so I'm going to negate all the comments from certain groups that talk about would our Creator send us on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem when it's cold. And just know this, analyze everything on how it would have been done historically. What about when they were in tents? Do you not think that the people survived the cold and the rain living on the land in tents, in sukkahs, especially in the desert? If you've had any desert experience, you know, in the day it can be brutally hot, and in the nighttime it can be brutally cold. And when they came into the land, up until they started building houses, they started here in tents, and they kept the Passover. So I'm going to negate all those comments about whether or not God would have demanded that of the people, because I'm one who knows that what he asks you to do, he provides the ability to do. End of story. And I want to look at, I want to tell you two things that came to mind too, is for me, I'm looking at that field and I'm saying, okay, first fruits. I know that God required two things from that field: first fruits, and then later on a tithe of the increase of the seeds of that field, which are two separate issues. First fruits would be those first ripe areas, and the tithe would come, I think that was like I'm not good with this stuff. I think that was like the third year, where you would take the increase of your seeds to the storehouse, which was the temple, or the Mishkan. So that's the thing I'm looking at, is those things. Okay, I want to do the barley for you again. Bring it in and do the barley, because I realized that little window that I had up was awfully small, and I want to give you a very clear picture of what I have. Okay, this is the barley that I brought back with me, and I could already see a significant change in the appearance. Okay, if I were picking an herb, this would be wilting. Okay, it would look tired and droopy. The barley's not doing that; it's looking more brittle. Okay, and if you look, I dropped it. If you look, it's starting to come apart already. So, whoops, there goes another one. Random. That one. Yeah, look, that I dropped. Some of it's coming apart. Well, let's do that one. Well, no, let's not do that one. I'll take that other one back up that I had. Okay, now this one looks very, very green. Okay, looks very, very green. I'm going to open it for you. Barley has a specific way you open it, and it's much easier if you work with the barley than if you work against it. Okay. Is that barley? And squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. There's nothing coming out of that. See how hard I pressed it? See the print on my finger? See the barley? Okay, I'm going to cut it with my thumbnail. I'm squeezing. This is one day. See the other half. I'm squeezing. Where'd the camera go? That's one day. That's one day. Already that's so starchy that you're not squeezing anything out of it. Yesterday I probably would have been able to squeeze that. Again, I want to show you that this is the crimson barley. Can you see the little dark places there where it looks, where the crimson is? See if I can find a greener one. Maybe you can see the crimson on this one better. You see the crimson on that one better? The caramel color? Caramel barley as opposed to carmiel, the color. Okay. Now I'm going to show you some pictures
of when I took it back to the hotel, which I forgot to do. Let's see, hang on. So this picture is when I took the long stalks back to the apartment on the kibbutz I was staying in and laid it out on the floor. I just threw it down there. Let's look at it. You can see a significant change even. That looks so green. And there's not even anything in there that I showed you that looked green, is there? Okay. Looking for more just there. Okay, you can see it's a little bit of color there, that this was that caramel color. Okay, stop sharing. And I'm going to go over here. Now, what I have done in this photo is I have gone through that barley, that big handful of barley that I pulled up. I cut the stalks, and I then separated it into two piles. The pile here on this big pile has viable seeds. Out of all of that, this stuff was not viable. You'll see that this one was blooming. There was one here which barely was out of the boot. This one was barely out of the boot. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of, I don't know, 30, I think. Let me stop sharing. That's not a clear photo. I won't show that one. Let me try this one. That's a better photo. So let me go back up here. Oops, shoot. Yeah, you can see some of the little blooms have dropped off this. Look at this next photo. And in this photo, I reached in and grabbed one stalk right here out of the batch randomly, literally like I did for you guys. I didn't look, I just grabbed. And I'm going to check the grain on that. Hang on. You can see that the grain is there. It's not that these are now empty. I would see there's that caramel color, that crimson color. It's not empty. And already I'm seeing a change in that barley. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to do. And this is the way I brought the barley home, just so you know. I put it in a paper sack, a little paper lunch bag, and just shoved it all down in there, and that's how I carried it home. Let's see what else I can show you. And that's it. That's it. So again, what you have to come to terms with is the fact that this is what we have been presented. This is, and I'll go back into that whole crimson idea, how we have traditionally looked at Leviticus 2:14, and we've made it be about the condition of the grain, from a green ear to a full ear that's hard, and if you want to relate it to that Zadok scale, one that's completely mature, okay, and it's dropped. If I'm looking at that field with that traditional understanding in my mind of green ears to mature, that field is going to have it. Okay, we are going to have for this season a field that has green ears next month with this first fruits offering that's on the ground, and it's hard and dry and brittle like a crunchy kernel of popcorn. So I'm asking you not to follow me blindly. You've got to get before God and find your faith in this situation and decide if you want to wait for the next group and have a bigger representation in the field, or if you believe that from within a field that these things happen for a reason, and that God maybe actually think about that. Maybe these things do happen for a reason. Everybody's always talking about, you know, how do you get your omer to the temple, and how many days is there, and is there enough days, and is your barley going to be? Maybe this is the way that Elohim created the field purposely, that we get this first fruits early in the same field, and then, like we read in the book of Boaz, then the harvest continues as the barley ripens. If that was my field and this was my omer, I would find the resident Levite and I would give him that barley immediately. Then it's that Levite's job to transport it to Jerusalem, or maybe because of Levitical mountains, maybe they had a relay of Levites that one would take it and the next one would go and they would relay it to Jerusalem. I don't know, but I would be taking that to my area Levite to get it to the temple. Let me move this out of the way. It's becoming a pain to handle because it falls apart now when I touch it. It'll be interesting to see this in, let's see, what is today? Friday. It'll be interesting to see it. Friday just before Shabbat. I've compared Ryan before and after. Okay. So, we talked about that. Let's go to Leviticus 2:14. Okay, here we go. This is that verse I was telling you about that we have traditionally used and the King James uses. And if you look at, what is his name, Keel and Delitzsch, they have also used this to mean they say Carmel, I can't read it, hang on, Carmel Geresh, okay, rubbed out of the field fruit is what they said, okay, and it comes from garash, to rub out. And so, and then they say Carmel is generally applied to a cornfield to cultivate ground as distinguished from the desert here. This is what they're telling us. I'm not telling you that they try to do any kind of deceit, any kind of trickery, any try to kind of switch and bait, but I'm telling you that they probably haven't walked with grains for a whole year. So, and if thou offer a meat offering of thy first fruits unto the Lord, thou shalt offer for the meat offering of thy first fruits green ears, that abib, dried, and that's kala, okay, to shrink by heat, by fire, even corn, geresh, out of full ears. Now look at what this is. This word is constructed, Carmel. And they tell us it's from this root word right here, kareem, which is an unused word of uncertain meaning. Well, they're honest. A garden or a vineyard, vines, increase of the vineyard, vintage. Okay. And as I said in the previous video, and this wasn't all in there, all of this I had showed before, and I'm doing it again now to clarify, how can this root, which Hebrews is a language of roots where you build onto the root to express meaning from the parent word, like my cousin looks similar to me, like my children look similar to me, they came from me, there's a similarity in their meaning. How can a root that has its meaning and foundation in a vineyard mean a full ear of barley? I don't think it does. Let's go to Second Chronicles. I'll stop sharing. And here is that verse. And we did it before, but now it'll have more meaning. Send me now, therefore, a man cunning to work in gold and silver and brass and in iron, in purple and in crimson. Okay, this word is exactly like the Carmel word for the barley, only it has the addition of that yud right there. Probably of foreign origin. Carmine, a deep red crimson. So what I am saying to you again is it doesn't make any sense to me that we let the barley get to full maturity in the field because you're not going to have it to harvest. It makes sense to me that the permission was given that they could offer red barley or green barley in the acceptable stage of maturity. I think that's all I've got. The other thing that I do want to briefly chat about is the signs on the land that we were given. If you will, seeing them early, like knowing when the first 300 storks came in, like seeing the almond trees as soon as they bloomed, recognizing the anemones when they first started showing up on the earth. It's a type of a first fruit or a first appearing. And I don't feel bad that I did not wait for all of the land of Israel to be flushed with storks, to be flushed with anemones, to be flushed with almond trees in bloom. I don't feel bad about that. I think for me that was the correct decision, because if we're going to, since it's in harmony with everything, if we're going to find the early barley, we need to watch those things and we need to know when that happens, and we need to be looking at the land. And as stated, next year what's changing for me, I'm going to try to go down there before the lambs get on the earth. As soon as the grass, quote unquote, comes out of the ground here, I want to go look at that area. It'll automatically be further ahead than us. I'm going to go look at that area, and I want to see what the general condition is before the sheep and the goats start grazing it down. I'll go again at the time that my friend in Zaella calls me and says that her lambs are on the ground. I'll go visit with her, buy some cheese from her, ask her if she noticed what she noticed this year about the lambs that I've asked her to watch about. And we'll know more. We'll grow more next year. Our understanding will be better. And so, yeah, prayerfully decide what you got to do. I'm not asking you to follow me. I'm telling you why I'm doing what I'm doing. And thanks for watching. I hope that covers all the questions, and I hope that gives you clarity.